This is Don't Fear Grit with Rob Taormina. Marketing strategies and advertising technologies to help you build a better business.
What's up, everyone? It is so awesome actually to be back here in the studio filming and recording another episode of Don't Fear Grit. Everyone's favorite show on all of the interweb. I'm your host, Rob Taormina, and as you guys know, the primary subject of everything we discuss always points back to hard work, right? Don't fear grit. And most of our audience and most of the conversations we have are people with, in the entrepreneurship sort of circle. But everything that we discuss can also be beneficial to kids and the families and other environments as well. Hence today's topic, which is what are experiences that all kids before they are 12 should in fact experience. Now, this is a very personal topic for me, and I know it's going to hit home for a lot of people as well, but it's personal for me because I actually recently had kids just turn 12. I've got triplets, and just a few days ago, all three obviously just turned 12. So a big milestone in our family. I've got like the circus in my family with these triplets. It's awesome. We always make a big splash. I always sort of joke around with people and I say, we make every room more crowded when the Taorminas walk in, right? Because of us and the triplets. But we've got an awesome life and we've been able to experience a ton. And so what I did was, in preparation for today's show, I actually also did a bunch of research online. I talked to some psychologists, child psychologists, sociologists, therapists, other doctors like pediatricians, other people that service the different various youth communities as well, and to just sort of arm myself with, what are these experiences that kids should, in fact, be exposed to. And so I created this top 10 list based on my experiences again in these conversations that I had, but I also want to say a little disclaimer here. It's not an exclusive list, right? So what kids should experience is not limited to just what we're going to discuss here. In fact, I had a hard time limiting it to just 10. I mean, I did it for the sake of the show, right? I can't talk forever, but there really is a laundry list of things that could experience. And at the end of the day, what we learn is it's important for what? Kids to experience things. So important. We're going to learn a lot more about that. You're going to hear that over and over. Repetition is going to be an indication of what we should be learning, right? And we're going to repeat that a lot. It's so important that kids experience a lot, right? So we're going to get into it in a second, but I do want to show you my triplets, right? This is just a few moments. Now, for those that are just listening, you're not going to be able to see this, so find the show on YouTube or somewhere else, right, where we're showing Don't Fear Grit. But for those of you who are watching the show right now, these are my triplets just a few minutes after they were born in the hospital. Quick, funny little story is the nurse said, hey, give me your camera. I'll take a picture for you. And I had this massive smile on, right? In the modeling world, they say smizing, right? She could definitely tell I was smiling. And she was like, remove your mask so we can all see your massive smile. And that's what I did. I pulled down my mask, as you can see right there. And those are my triplets. Those are my triplets just moments after they're born. And fast forward late, all these years later, and now they just turned 12, which is so crazy to think of. It's such incredible, experiences my kids have had. Lots of, amazing moments, lots of sad moments and struggling moments. And right, life is not, all rainbows and butterflies, right? But life brings with it lots of challenges, and there's been a lot of challenging moments as well. But it's important that we learn from them, right? That's what's key there. So let's sort of rip right into it here. That's going to be our list. Now, as you can see, we've got a countdown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best, people, right? I'm going to do my best to stick to my countdown here, and we're going to go through this entire list here, and give myself maybe 2 minutes per topic. And let's just start the countdown right now. The first one that you guys already saw. Again, this is if you're watching it. If you're listening, our first topic, the first, in fact, experience that all kids should, in fact, experience before they're age 12, sports. Okay? What I want to clarify here. Now, I know people are going to argue, well, not all kids are athletes. Not all kids are necessarily going to be skilled and gifted in the area of sports. And that's not the argument here. That's not the discussion that we're having. I still believe that all kids, regardless of skill level, should be involved in sports before the age of 12. Number one, because it's before the age of 12, it's less competitive, so they are going to be able to compete and participate. Number two, the things that you learn from being involved in sports is actually not the sport itself. I sit on the board of a local youth organization, and something that I've shared with parents, kids themselves, other members of the youth organization is the sports. That's the vehicle that we are using to be able to teach kids valuable lessons that's going to stick with them for the rest of their life. That's what sports are. They are a vehicle for us to teach kids things like discipline, how to play well with others, how to win and lose. That's just so important. We always talk about winning, right? How about teaching kids how to lose? Because that's reality. More on that a little bit later on, because that's another thing that one of our things that made the top 10 list, right? But I think it's so important for all kids, regardless of skill level, to be involved with sports. So don't prevent or not allow your kid to be involved with sports because you think, he's not coordinated. Oh, he's not skilled. He's not athletic. It doesn't matter. But when they're not 12, when they're from 0 to 12, that's your child's opportunity to still play. Because you know what? Here's a fact. They will age out. They will one day I call it skilling out, where maybe they won't be able to keep up and compete because the other skill levels of the other kids, they're progressing a lot faster. But you know what? They don't have to be. They don't have to be an incredible athlete, right, for their entire life. That's not necessarily the goal. But because sports do present amazing opportunities for your kids to experience amazing things with other children and learn amazing things as well, give that as an opportunity for them because they will be better for it. I'm going to shift, for those of you who are watching, I'm going to actually shift the timer up here. Let's reset it. Our next topic is play an instrument. I really believe that all kids should play an instrument. Now, before you get ahead of me and say, well, not all parents can afford it, there are programs and other opportunities available for parents who maybe can't afford it to still get an instrument for their child. School districts offer instruments. There are other local organizations, businesses that offer instruments, and they, you know what, maybe not for free as far as the businesses, but they have rental programs that are very, very affordable. But there's also places like secondhand places. You can go on Craigslist, you can go on Facebook Marketplace, and there are always people giving away instruments or selling them for a crazy, crazy discount. Here's the thing. We care about our kids, right? And we care about them developing and learning and becoming the best versions of themselves that they possibly can be. Playing an instrument unlocks parts of their brain that's going to enable them to be better problem solvers. That's so important. And that's just one. I don't have time to go into all of them, but playing an instrument it's healthy for brain development, right? If you are a gym rat and you like to exercise, you know that it's important for you to eat right and exercise well, right? To be physically healthy. Well, the mind needs things as well. There are things that you could do to your mind, or you can give to your mind to help your mind develop, right? And playing an instrument is definitely one of those things. I highly recommend all parents invest in their children in learning and encouraging them to learning an instrument. And I'll take it a step further, not just any instrument. I think all kids should start foundationally with piano. And then once they learn piano as the foundation for music, then they can sort of branch out. But again, I think it's super important that all kids learn how to play an instrument. Next on our list, I think that all kids should learn a secondary language. Obviously, I'm not talking about their primary language here. I'm talking about a secondary language. It's science. We know this. There's millions and millions of case studies to prove it. It's much easier for kids to learn multiple languages than it is to learn multiple languages when you are an adult. So let's take advantage of those wonderful learning years, which is the earlier years for kids, and give them an opportunity to learn a language. Now, you yourself might only know one language, right? But today, technology, lots of content, YouTube is chock full of amazing tutorials that you can play for your kids that'll help them to learn another language. There's a ton of movies and TV shows, kids' TV shows that are in other languages with, like, for example, English subtitles that'll help them in learning that language. I highly recommend, even if it's just putting it on in the background or being more intentional, do it as a family. Now, this is one thing I tried to do with my kids. We didn't do a great job, and that's why, like, now that they're 12, we're really going to be buckling down and investing this year into learning a second language. But we brought in tutors when they were kids to help teach them Italian. I would put on, we got various shows that they loved, and we got them in Italian. And I think what was made it harder for them is that their parents weren't as invested in learning. And that was shame on us. And that's a big difference that we're going to be making in our family, is do it as a family, learn a second language, just very similar to piano, where piano unlocks different areas of our mind. Like, for example, increasing our ability to problem solve. Language does that as well. It unlocks parts of our mind that's going to enable us to be really successful, because we could do things like problem solve quick. Now, if you're in the entrepreneurial world, the ability to problem solve fast is critical. And if you can problem solve fast, though, that's a skill, a common skill of highly successful leaders in the world. The next topic here is volunteering. Now, I'm going to say something that I didn't necessarily say to start this off. Now, there are things on this list that you're going to think, all right, that's obvious. I definitely would have put that on my list as well. And there's going to be some other things on this list that you're like, it makes you think a little bit. And there might be even things in the list you're like, oh, no way. And you're going to need me to really sort of convince you, right? Volunteering is probably one of those things where it wouldn't have made a lot of people's list, but I think it's going to make you think about this. Now, volunteering, when you bring your kids to places to volunteer, it's not about them. It's about others. Right there, that statement right there, you probably know where I'm going with this and can understand the value in having your children volunteer. Because teaching kids empathy and sympathy and kindness by way of volunteering is incredible. There are lessons that you can learn from volunteering that you just can't teach at home. There are certain lessons that you need to teach your kids that can only be taught through experiencing it. And I think volunteering is one of those things, and I highly recommend, as a family, you regularly coming together. Now, regularly could be just maybe once a year. That's fine. That could be regular, right? Maybe it's something that you do right after Thanksgiving, the first week in December, or you pick a day. It doesn't matter, right? But I think that teaching moment for your children will go a really long way, because I think kindness, empathy, sympathy, understanding, having some humility, being, having a humble experience, I think is great. And I think all children need to experience this, because life is not always about me, right? It is about others. Life is a journey. It's meant to be life is a companion life, right? That's how this was designed to be. Companionship is part of life. It's not designed to be done alone. And I think we need to understand others. We need to understand how others' positions, what other people are going through, what other people's needs are. And teach kids that it's not always just about them and what they get, but maybe it's about others and what we can give, and volunteering is one of those amazing things. Again, you just can't teach it at home. It's just something that they've got to experience on their own. Next, travel. Now, traveling is huge for my wife and I. It is so important that we travel. Now, and before you start rip into me with some of these obnoxious comments, when I say travel, I don't mean you're getting on a plane every single week and flying off to some country all over the place all the time. That's not necessarily what we mean. Traveling could be as simple as, if you've got the means to just get on a bicycle and go on a bike ride with your kids, go somewhere else. Take them away from the comfort of the four walls where they see what they see every single day, and let them experience life. It could be, putting them in the car with your family and going to the beach, going camping, Or if you have the resources and you have the ability, maybe be a little bit more ambitious. Get in the car and take a ride to another state and just experience something. And you know what? That yes, if you do have the means to get on a plane and go places, do it. Traveling for kids is so important because it'll culture them, because there's more to life just in the four walls of their bedroom. And again, that's one of those things you can't just teach them at home. You got to show them and allow them to experience it on their own. Next up on our list, this is another big one for me, build something. I think that being able to build something with your own hands, being creative, to see something, envision something, and then actually see it come to fruition by doing it yourself and earning that reward of actually, I did this. It's a lost art and it's sort of a lost focused passion. And I think it's so important that when you teach your kids to build something early. Now, remember earlier we were talking about sports, that I take the position that especially early on, 0 to 12 years old, all kids should be in sports regardless of skill level. When it comes to building something, I'm not saying that they should have to build something that is even functional, right? But be realistic, set proper expectations. Sometimes building something is just the act of building it with you. That's important. But give them a tool. Don't be afraid to give them a hammer and nail. Show them how to use it. Show them how to create something out of nothing. And you're going to hear this a few times. You've already heard it from me a few times as well. Unlocking certain parts of the brain can only be done through experiences. Unlocking certain parts of the brain to aid in development can only be done through creativity. Creativity is, oh my God, such a powerful, powerful tool to have. You can teach your kids to be creative by teaching them to build something from nothing. Let's get into our next topic here. Next topic. Man, this one might surprise a few people, but I think everyone, for the most part, is going to agree with this. I think all kids prior to becoming 12 need to experience disappointments. We need to be honest about life. Life is going to throw disappointment our way. Number one, it's how we handle those disappointments that's really going to define who we are. And number two, disappointments are not bad, right? There are healthy disappointments, and sometimes we need to be disappointed because number one, we weren't meant to do that one thing. We're meant to do something else. We need to teach our kids how to handle disappointment properly and in a manageable environment. And you can do that prior to 12. Now, once they are past 12, handling disappointments is going to get a lot harder. Think about relationship disappointments. Think about now not making that sports team disappointment. Now it's after school, maybe after college, not getting that first job that you wanted, that disappointment. We can prepare them for those moments early on with these manageable, healthy disappointment opportunities. I looked at them as opportunities, and I think disappointments are great. There are bad ones, don't get me wrong. Not all disappointments are good, but there are healthy disappointments, and I think all kids need to experience healthy disappointments in a controlled environment where you can guide them. You can guide them because I'll actually add one more thing to this. If you teach them how to handle those situations and prepare them when they're young, you might be able to even prevent disappointments in the future. All right, next on our list here, start a fire. Now, I'm not saying to teach them to be pyromaniacs, right? No, I am simply saying I think it's really important that kids learn to do things with their hands. I do, or like building something. I think that teaching kids how to build a fire, number one, is a valuable skill set for all my fellow doomsday preppers out there, right? But I think that moment that you get to have with your child, I'm just speaking from experience as my dad with my kids, I teach them how to make a fire. I take it a little bit maybe too far. I teach them how to make fires with various materials. We have fire making competitions. Like when we went, it was like 2 years ago, we went up to Maine and I got a house on a lake. It was amazing. And I literally brought a bunch of different materials and I said, we're going to have a fire making competition. I've done this before, and I gave them different materials and we had different awards for various, parts of it. But I taught them how to make a fire, the type of wood, the size of wood, how to make a fire if you've got flint and steel, how to make a fire if you only have a flashlight. Like, we do this together because number one, you're creating a lasting memory with your kid. And that right there is worth it. But number two, you're teaching them a fun skill set that, maybe you're teaching them to be outdoorsy. And you know what? Appreciating nature via these moments. Again, it's not something that you can teach just locked in a room within the four walls of their bedroom or your house. You got to get outside. You got to let the wind blow through their hair. You got to allow them to get a little dirty. And in this case, let them make a fire. You're teaching them yourself in a controlled environment how to respect it, how to be safe. You don't want these moments to be created for them where you're not around to prepare them how to handle it, right? Because that's how disasters happen. But when they're younger, you get to teach them the right way of doing things. And I think building a fire is an awesome thing to do with your kids. The next thing, keep something alive. Oh my goodness. Now this is hard for a lot of people. Now I'm not saying everyone has to get a pet. Maybe you are in an apartment or a house or wherever you are, you're not allowed to have a pet, and that's fine, right? Then get a plant. But I think it's important for kids to have the responsibility to keep something other than themselves alive. Because when they're kids, it's the job and the responsibility of the parent. They do everything. And the kids just get to enjoy the life that the parents are creating for them. But you get to give them a little perspective, remember, in a manageable environment, a controllable environment. And I think giving the kids a responsibility to keep something alive is something that they'll learn a lot from later on, right? We don't want them when they get married and they start their own family and the first time that they have to keep something alive is when they are having a child, right? Could you imagine? No. Let's start early with maybe a fish or a plant. And let's see if they can keep that alive and use that as a great teaching moment for them. Let's see here. Last on our list is pray. And we've heard this before. Many people, you've heard it on TV, you've heard it from your family, you've heard the phrase faith, family, friends, right? And it's something that's preached to us from many different types of cultures and backgrounds and communities. Faith, family, friends. Well, I think we should take it a step further and to clarify what that means. And I think that you should teach your kids how to pray. It's easy. It can be done. You could do it all the time, and you get amazing benefits from it. I think teaching your kids to pray is teaching them confidence as well. Is to teaching them that self-confidence, which I think that our culture and our communities right now is lacking in. I can't tell you how many kids I see that lack confidence, that are struggling with insecurities. And I think that there's a number of really great benefits to teaching your kids how to pray. And I think one of them is teaching them to be secure in themselves and confident in themselves and not ashamed of who they are and what they believe them. Teach them to pray, and you can teach them to pray by you setting the example by praying yourself. Now, this was the sort of the top 10 list. And like I said earlier, it is definitely not a comprehensive list. There is a laundry list of things that kids should be experiencing prior to turning 12. I just couldn't fit them all into one show. Maybe I could do a follow-up one day. But other things that were, so we'll say consideration for our top 10 is teaching kids how to cook. You could teach kids how to, make macaroni and cheese and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You can start simple, but I think teaching them how to cook is great, and I think all kids should do it. Let them, the kitchen's going to become a mess. It is what it is. My wife taught me that lesson because I remember when my kids were little, we've got pictures and videos of them of even when they were like 2 years old, and my wife handing over the spatula with a bowl of stuff, and the kids going to town and going everywhere. She helped me to understand the importance of those moments. The mess doesn't matter. It's what we're teaching them that matters. And you know what? I got to give her credit. She was absolutely right. So teaching them how to cook, giving them chores. Don't shy away from giving your children chores. I think it gives them an understanding of earning things in life. We're entitled to nothing. We deserve nothing in this world. And I think it's important that we teach our kids that they need to earn things in life. It's not going to just be given to them, nor do they deserve anything to be given to them. They have to earn it. So there's a lot of other things on this list. I'm sure you guys have a lot of other things that probably would have made your list as well. I'd love to hear it. So regardless of where you are hearing or watching this, definitely send us a message. Or if you're watching this, for example, on YouTube, go ahead, comment. What else should have been on this list of things that all kids prior to turning 12 should experience? Because I think we need to share this information a lot more. And I think collectively as a community, we can make more of a difference if we share this information. What are things that you learned as a kid that has stuck with you? What are things that you taught your own children that you've seen made a big difference in their life? I think there's something amazing here. And ultimately, like I've said many, many, many times in many, many other shows as well, if this discussion does nothing other than inspire you to think more about it, I think we did our job. So guys, thanks again for tuning in to Don't Fear Grit. I am Rob Taormina, and I love these conversations. I welcome you guys to subscribe. Help us out. Let's grow this community. Definitely share this with people that you feel would benefit from this conversation, and we'll see you next time, guys, on Don't Fear Grit. Take care.